Hey, what's up everybody? How's everybody doing this morning? This afternoon? This evening? So on and so forth and awkward and on? Okay, just getting things finished setting up here. Alright. Looks like we are good to go. And for the record, this is not era for mech design. This is actually Brendon Isaiah Bengtson. Yeah, look at they did that to me twice in a row. Isn't that awesome? I love those guys over there. So yeah, my name is Brendon Isaiah Bengtson. Info down in the corner. And we're doing video game pipeline character art. That's what we're doing. How you doing, Craig? What's up, buddy? How's life, home? How's life? Mr. Kim, how are you, sir? Alright. Today we are going to continue further developing. Yeah, keep me on my feet. Yeah, that's for damn sure. At freaking 6 o'clock in the morning. Today we're going to continue fleshing out, finalizing the high-res pour pass for this dude's face. If you tuned in last time, what we did was we did the killer workflow for the texturing XYZ, which I'll link you up here. If you just type in texturing XYZ killer workflow, you'll get this. Boom, there you go. Anyways, basically they have some stacked textures on a flat plane. You use the ZBrush plugin, which is awesome, from WrapX guys. So you can do that, wrap that, bake those textures to your new UVs, and then extrapolate out the micro detail, the displacement, and the height from that stacked map, and then put those onto layers. And that's what I did here. So we got displacement, height, and detail. We do that through the displacement map here. So just load those maps here. I usually use an intensity of 0.002 or 0.003, and then just apply that displacement map to a different layer. And then that's how you get it. Done. Finally back to modeling after a few other adventures. Nice, man. Always got to get back to it. Always got to get back. So I'll go just really quickly through what I've done here. I'm just going to delete these guys. Don't need those. So we'll just go right from the beginning here. So this is my initial base sculpt. What's up, Kim? How you doing? My initial base sculpt, and then I applied the displacement map that was baked from the texturing XYZ, and then you can see I changed some of the opacity here. The height map, and then the detail map. So what I noticed about it is that it didn't really have really good defined pores on the cheeks here, which are kind of one of the most important parts when you're looking at least game faces. Where's your game face? Actually, you know what I should do is Let's open up Marmoset and show you the baked head version. Let me just open that real quick. So a lot of times what you have in the actual ZBrush sculpt, when it looks really good here, tends to not quite be enough sometimes in the actual game engine. So there's plenty of times when you have to push the details more here to make it look like over the top for it to bake and look better in the engine in the final. So there's a kind of a fine line between what you see here as the final fidelity and where it comes out in the actual game. So that's another reason why it's good to have these all on separate layers, so you can actually boost them out more or less based on what your Joanne, what's up? Sorry, based on what your output is. Let me just. So here's the in-engine bake that I did. The eyes are terrible. Don't worry about the eyes for right now. Oh, yes. Thank you, Mord. Perfect. Dude, you're a lifesaver, homie. But you can see kind of where it's at right now. It's still's got a lot of work to do. But this is combining the normal map with a roughness pass and an albedo pass. But at least we can start seeing kind of blame Kyle. Yes, ABBK. But thank you very much. I totally forgot that you could do that. I actually got to write that down. Let me actually just copy and paste that real quick. I forgot you could actually type that in. Hold on a second. ZB stream title change. Cool. All right. Perfect. So usually what I'll do is when I'm to the point where I'm ready to push some of these levels and actually bake it out and bring it in here, I'll have this on a second screen. I'll bake out the normal map here, and it should automatically update when I have everything set up right over here. So I could literally make some tweaks on the ZBrush sculpt, bake it, send it out real quick, and then I can get some live updates on this side. So that's typically what I'll do. So I'm just going to put this guy over here for now. So I didn't like how we had not quite great pour detail here, so I just did a quick detail pass. Just emphasize some of those pours a little bit more through here. And then I went and had to fix a bunch of stuff up in here, in the nose area. So that's that one. And then now that I had the base going, I started doing some umphs. Some umph. Everybody loves the umph. So really just trying to take the base XYZ pass and really build on top of it. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to continue building kind of this umph layer and export it out a couple of times and see what those differences are looking like. That's what we're going to do. So, the other thing, I think, let me. Do I want to load the full guy? I don't know if you guys seen him or not. But this is from a concept from Adrian Wilkins for Horizon Zero Dawn. let me just plug where I can plug real quick. Wilkins. So if you guys want to take a look at the concept, this is the concept. This guy here, Adrian Wilkins, really awesome concept artist. I'll go ahead and plug him. Plugged. But yeah, so this full guy is the full project that I'm working on. Where'd it go? There we go. So this is this guy. Let's turn off the headlights real quick. So that's this dude. If you want to go, I actually did most of this guy on the ZBrush Live. So if you're interested in watching the full sculpt and everything from the ground up, he is actually on the ZBrush Live website under my page. So you can go back and watch pretty much this full process. But this is where we're at now. Let's turn off guides. Yeah, there we go. He's getting there. All right. Now we can get to work. So the only thing you really got to be careful about after, if you're sculpting on top of Mord with the second alley-oop. Thanks, buddy. If you're sculpting on top of previous layers that aren't necessarily 100%, it's taking into account where your surface is when it's at these levels. So if you're sculpting on something and then you change some of the amounts of some of your previous layers, things could get a little bit hairy, so just try to pay attention to where those are. Alright, let's roll. Alright, I think we're on basic. Do I want to go to blend? Nah, basic's fine. Alright, usually for this I use a lot of inflate brush. But what I want to do is continue to kind of pull out a lot of these areas. A little much. Okay, I don't know if you guys get this, but there's a lot of times when my Control Z doesn't work. Right now I'm doing Control Z and it's not working. But you can see my undo history is here. If you guys ever get this bug, what you can do is switch to just another primitive and then do make polymesh 3D, and somehow that fixes it. So if I go back and do Control Z, it works now. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know what, but that's what fixes it. Any tips for hair sculpting for 3D printing? Yeah, so basically what I would do for hair sculpting is I would make your overall shape of what the hair is, and then just like when you're sculpting anything else, get your big shapes first. So maybe you want a couple locks coming in here, maybe you want stuff coming through here, maybe. Get your basic shapes going, and then subdivide, and then go in, start refining. I usually use just damn standard for this type of stuff. Just refine, 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 until you get to a point where it looks pretty good. And that's really mostly the tips that I have is just sculpt it out, really. Start with your overall shape, just like when you're sculpting anything else, right? Use your primary shapes, and then once you're happy with the overall primary shape, go in, work on your smaller secondary shapes. And then once you're happy with your secondary shapes, go in and start just pulling out smaller details. Subdivide. Because everything's just going to be basically one solid mass for printing, right? Because you're not going to get into all that undercutting and everything like that when it comes to the little pieces. So you just come in and just sculpt it out. Really, I don't think there's really many shortcuts to it. I think the other thing you can do is maybe towards the end, if you really want to, you can get just like a curve brush and start doing some cylinders. Managing the overlap, I mean, sculpt it out. It really depends. Like every hairstyle is a little bit different, so. If it's 3D printing, yeah. Eamon has some really, really good stuff, so does Tomas. Yes. They got some really good stuff. I would probably watch some of their stuff, or when they jump on, take a look at the schedule, see when next time that they're on, and ask them. Alright, let's jump back to inflate here. Why is it so hot in this room? Yeah, man. Yeah, no problem. Alright, inflate. Where was I? It gets a little bit much here. Just this is where all that small little lovely detail really comes out once you get up nice and close. And I may actually want to go down in the subdivision level and start working on some of this in here, just to give it some life. Am I still using 2018? Yeah, I am. That's what I opened it in. For this particular project, other than like the subtools and stuff, I'm not really using any of the new features, so it doesn't really matter too much for this guy. Maybe I want to come down a little bit. Just do some more subtle stuff through here. And again, just making some surface variation. So everything's not just on one level. Yeah, this you can really kind of go to town once you get to this stage. So I have not exported this yet with the extra oomph. So in a couple minutes here, we'll go ahead and re-export the normal map. Yeah, I probably would sculpt the atoms if I could. That's very true, Mort. I'm a sucker for crazy detail. Newbie at Game Art Flow question. Doing character sculpt right now, still getting the base forms down. However, the topology from my Dynamesh, ZBrush cycles is obviously not good and limiting what I can do with certain body features. Should I A, retopo now and then finish detailing? Or turn on Sculptress, fix up those features, then retopo? Um, I would say when it comes down to when do you worry about UVs and good topology is after you've finished the primary forms. Once you've got all the primary forms chunked out, then move over to a better topology. So a lot of times what I'll do is that was supposed to be B. Yeah, I got that. But yeah, that's cool. Um, what I'll do is I'll do some just crazy stuff, and I'll worry about the topology. I'll use either Sculptress or Dynamesh or whatever. And then what I'll do is I'll just project it onto um, my low res with good UVs. So I'd say after you finish your primary and very very early secondary forms, um, then project everything over to your nice retopoed version with good UVs. Because then from there, once you start subdividing and using layers and stuff, you're really not going to be doing a whole lot of mass shape displacement, where you'll be kind of stretching a lot of that topology. You'll mostly be doing just very, very small stuff. And for that, you don't really need Dynamesh or Sculptors Pro anymore. Alright, let's start working on this side a little bit. Yeah, man. No problem. Any other pipeline questions I'm happy to help with, man. So I usually switch back and forth between a couple of major brushes. I'll use clay buildup, move to topological, H polish, and dam standard. I have those all on hotkeys, so if you don't know what I'm at, you could always just check up here to see what I'm moving to real quick. So in this case, I'm just gonna start throwing in a little bit of this. What's up, Mirko? How you doing? I'm going to try to get some of this nice sweeping action that was happening in this way. And just start pushing in some of these details a little bit more. And again, I'm still at subdivision level 5, so I'm not really affecting the last high res level. Just working on some of the primary, or not primary, but the smaller secondary forms. Sometimes too, some of the areas when you project with XYZ, not every little spot is perfect. So depending on if there are like eyelashes in your original maps, like you can see some of that stuff happening here where the eyelashes are down. Why is the subdivision changing as you move the camera like this? It's just a feature for ZBrush so that when you're actually rotating, it doesn't calculate the highest subdivs. So it's a performance thing. You can go into your preferences and change that if you want to. So you see some of the leftover kind of like eyelash stuff happening here. So a lot of times I'll just go in and try to get some of that out. You see it here happening a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. What's up, Dania? For this particular project, it's I'm not really using any of the new features for it. I actually meant to open ZBrush 2019, but because I have 2018 still installed, when I double click a ZTL, it right now it just defaults to 2018. Oh, it's on by default. Tuxedo. Maybe yours got turned off somehow. There's some kind of weird secondary form happening here. You can't really see it because the eye's there, but it's bugging the crap out of me, so I'm just going to go get rid of it real quick. I'm going to go down on my subdivision levels, and then we'll just go to, say, 1 on my draw size, just nice and easy. Maybe 4 would be good. There we go. Cool. That's gone. It's just bugging me. Still can't really see it, but it doesn't really matter. This geo is actually overlapping quite a bit, but it doesn't really matter either. Meh. Let me just go and clean up a little bit of this. This detail here is a little bit more high frequency than its surrounding detail, so I'm just going to try to even out the frequency of that detail a little bit. Go back up to 6. That feels a little bit better. And then sometimes, you know, you have high frequency and then like you ended up maybe smoothing a little bit too much. At this point, I usually go back with my displace brush. Go in with a spray, and then I'll use alpha 40. Turn off RGB. And you can just kind of go in and add some detail. Maybe we want to mask this off. And then we'll do add and sub, just to kind of add in a little bit more of that kind of noise to help match those areas up a little bit better. Question from Crane: how do you sculpt the mouth? Do you need to pre-plan opening? And how do you open and close without remeshing the lips shut? So the mouth can get a little bit tricky when you do your initial. Usually what I do is I will keep a different group for the lower, so I can just really quickly do that and then go up and then work on them like this, and then vice versa. I can do work on that one. So what I would do is just go down to subdivision level 1 and then just select a particular area of the bottom lip and then assign a polygroup to it. Jarl! What's up, buddy? But as for baking, you'll see up here, one of the things that I have is mouth open. So just on a layer, go down to subdivision level 1, and then just pull it apart. Use your polygroups to help isolate, and then just pull it apart a little bit. It's mostly so that when you do the bake, the self cage isn't intersecting with each alternate lip. That's usually what I'll do. Because ultimately your final in game isn't going to be mouth open. You just basically use that for the bake, so you don't get any kind of crazy, gross intersections on the normal map. Mr. Cardinal, how you doing? Or Mrs., either one. And then it's important to kind of play with your light here too, just to make sure that you're kind of seeing this from all angles. I still really don't like what's happening up here. Still bugging me a little bit. But yeah, we still need plenty of work through here. This feels good. This still needs some work. So what I like about this one is we kind of got some nice variations coming through here to help with the eyelid bag. This is the eye bag. This is the eyelid bag. Thanks, Nagy. It does help to have reference. So in this case, I use Quadro for my reference stuff. Quadro is ready. Thank you, Quadro. Appreciate it. What's up, Daniel? How you doing? Let's go to Quadro, open recent, Horizon Zero Dawn face. This is who I use. Mr. Galifianakis himself. Look at this guy. That's perfect. It's perfect. Obi-Wan. What's up, buddy? Let me just close some of these guys real quick. You see some of this is a really nice reference I did for the clothes. This is all low res stuff. So you'll see, look at this. Is that like not him? It's pretty damn close, man. Yes, the pores for the high res are pretty deep, but when you bake it out, it tends to really lighten it up. So sometimes what you have to do is you have to push more in your sculpt to get the correct output for your normal map. So this guy has got some really cool, look, you see this nice cross hatching happening in here. It's really cool. In this particular one, I love how some of these secondary forms pull from the eyelid out to the crow's feet. That's really cool. Tom, what's up, buddy? I typically, for a final bake, will bake in marmoset. But when it comes to just testing out the pour pass for this guy, I'll just bake right here in the normal map. Just bake this out and send that over to my marmoset scene real quick. So I think it's head final 2. Yeah, HZD head N. This is the guy. So what's nice is that if you have is it render? Somewhere near is auto load. I think it's in scene. I thought it was in scene. It's in render. Anyways, there's a setting somewhere, forgot where it is, but you can auto load. It'll basically, I think it's in maybe scene preferences. Yeah, auto reload models, auto reload textures. That's the big one. So if any of these textures update, it'll automatically bring it in once I click back on Marmoset here. So models I don't want. That's fine. So when I come back here, I could just have this on my second screen and export this again, and it'll automatically update here. No, Substance is still great for baking. I just like having all of my bake sets set up in folders. That way I don't have to do any cutting and pasting for map bakes in Photoshop. Cuts down on a ton of Photoshop. So like when I'm baking the head, these are going to be different groups, right? So I don't have to explode it, so they don't have intersecting cages. I don't have to do any cleanup. I can just put them in separate folders, and then they just bake together all in one bake, which is head pieces. Where's head pieces? Head pieces. So they just all bake into one map. With Painter, you'll have to figure out what you want to do, whether you want to go back in and cut and paste those different ones, the different bakes, into one normal map, or if you want to explode your mesh and bake that way. Yep, that's why. Okay. Oh, nice, Tom. Excellent, dude. Yeah, we want to see pictures, or it didn't happen. Good to see you though, man. How's life, brother? Brother. Sound like Hulk Hogan. Listen here, brother. Sometimes this happens, at least to me, a lot, where I'll turn on a layer to start working, and it will turn on my poly paint. And I think what happened was originally I filled it with black, which is actually awesome because this is and can be used as a quick roughness map preview. So I don't mind this. So sometimes I'll actually fill it with black poly paint just to get this quick preview of seeing how the pores are happening, and because this pore pass will be pretty much exactly what my roughness will look like. This will be almost exactly what my roughness will look like. Link it or it didn't happen, sir. Let's turn colorize off again. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to start pulling out some of these shapes in here. Right, and remember that cool cross-hatching that was happening? Really want to get some of that happening. I don't really have much of an opportunity from here. So the question is, do I want to force it, or do I want to just kind of continue with what's here and build on what's here? And maybe I'll try just to see if a couple of these work. Maybe I'll throw a couple coming back this way. Just subtly. This one right here is kind of bugging me. Feels weird. Go with your gut. A lot of times, when you get to this point, You're like, ah, but I don't know. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Where was it? There it is. Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes you can change it up too if your dam standard isn't quite giving you what you want. Maybe try orb crack brush or what is the other one? You're making a catalog, right? A spare parts catalog. Tom, what are you using to model? Are you using the new Spotlight modeling tools from 2019, or are you doing like old school like Maya 3ds Max modeling? I know you're an old school guy. I know you got the roots, bro. I still need a little bit more noise through the eyelids here, so I'm just gonna go back to my displace and just start adding a little bit. So maybe we'll turn my intensity down, and maybe I'll just mask these areas real quick, just so I'm not demolishing everything else. And just add some noise in here. It's starting to get a little too unnoisy. All ZBrush, okay. Yeah, learn the new toys. The spotlight modeling, it was a little weird at first, but like only for like 5 minutes. Man, super powerful and so awesome. What it does though is it kind of changes the way that you actually think about how the forms are going to be made, you know? Yeah, there's a lot of 3D people. Well, there's a handful of 3D centric people that are kind of poo-pooing the new stuff. Honestly, it's the illustrator's turn, man. Think about it. Illustrator's got some love. 4R8 was hard surface people with ZModeler. 2018 was organics with Sculptors Pro, and then you gotta give some love to the concept designers and the illustrators. They want to play in the party too. Guys, can I come play at the party? Yeah, man. Come on down. Come on. Come out. Get your ass over here. How do you retopo the overlapping eyelids? In this case, you would do it early on in the low res. You would just make sure that when you set up your low res that you spend some time down here to make sure that some of the extra eye loops are nice and tucked in there. So that as you get up there, you can kind of expand on having some of those extra edge loops in. And just kind of making sure that things still look good. So you'll definitely need to manage it, those edge loops, as you kind of move up in subdivision levels. "2019 is for folders, people." Yes, we got some folder love. That was awesome. All right, so let's pull back and just I like, so when you look at this, we've got a secondary form here and then another secondary form here. What I love is when you have tertiary forms that kind of span across secondary forms. Kind of like how we're seeing here. Love that. But they're not what? But they're not folders? Oh, snaps. Tom, do you you have an engineering background? Do you build bikes? You a bike guy? I want to say you're a bike guy. Oh, yeah. There's no. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no folders in folders yet. Man, you just give him an opportunity, man. Jeez. Here's folders. Yeah, but wait. There's not folders in folders. Boo. Yes. Yes. That's okay. Honestly, I've gone my entire professional art life without even really needing folders. So it's not. I actually found that now that I have folders, I spend more time in the subtool palette. Folderception. Let me see if we can grab some of these. Start pulling them across this secondary form and this secondary form. Maybe I may have to go down into subdivision level 4 and get rid of this little overlap that's happening here. So just maybe smooth that out. Come back up a little bit. Holy cow, you had your own custom shop in Florida? Dude, we need to talk, man. I don't build, I just ride. I have right now I was riding my first bike was a 2014 Honda F4i, and then I moved on to Honda 600RR. From there, I was like, you know what? I'm not really a crotch rocket kind of guy. I'm more of a Harley guy. So I ended up getting a 2016 Dyna Street Bob. So that's what I'm riding now. It's lovely. I love it. Her name's Betty. So I still think we got a little bit too high frequency here versus like out here. So I'm going to go in and just add a little bit more noise out here. Maybe soften up some of this stuff to match. Because it looks like I have a discrepancy in available subdivision levels from here versus here. So there's really not a whole lot I can do about that now. I can't subdivide again because I have layers, and I can't really go back and move. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, this is where it's happening because we got a pole right here. So what? Actually, you know what I may do? Sometimes you can just go back a little bit, and if you want to kind of shift some of your geo to help kind of soften this stretching that's happening at these poles. And that's the beauty of using subdivision layers, is that you can really go in and start kind of tweaking some of these lower subdivs and some of the geo. I don't want this to stretch too much. What I'm going to do is bring this stuff up, I think. That way you can start controlling some of the flow through here. Let's take that back up to 5. Interesting, right? I'll go back to displace. See if I can add a little bit more. I mean, you can't really tell too much from out here, only when we get up close, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, I think it's time for a bake. See what, especially what the eyes are doing in between. Yeah, it's a vertex edit. Yeah, exactly. See, you can't really tell. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so let's save this and then let's kick it back out. Then I think what we're going to do is we'll go in and start trying to fix some of this stuff out here. So I've covered, how I go about kind of adding more detail and kind of layering more details on top. I think what I want to cover next is like how to fix some things and how to kind of like try to reproduce what has been put down from texture maps and displacement maps into some of the blank areas that you're not getting from those texture maps or displacement maps. So how do I start reproducing this in a believable way to continue through there? So I think that's what we'll do next. But first, let's save. Save it? Head work. Save. Okay, he saved out. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I save to this guy right here. So HCD head normal PSD. So what I think I'm going to do though is instead of just overwriting this whole file, I'm going to save it to something else and open this in Photoshop and bring that in and then resave it there so that I can toggle back and forth between the before and after. God, I really got to work on this dude's eyes. It's really fucking bug me. Okay, so let's do it. So just grab a UV map is at 4K. That's fine. We'll go down to normal map and we'll just do down to subdivision level 1. Create normal map. Okay. So what it does is it just creates it here. In order to get that out, you need to send it to the texture palette. So you have to do clone normal map. So this is clone normal map to texture palette. That's what I want to do. Grab the texture. It does flip it vertically. So when you export this, you want to make sure that you flip it flip it in the V. Sorry, flip it vertically before you export it. Okay, so that's saved out. I'm going to jump into Photoshop. By the way, if you guys are interested in jumping on the new ZBrush, you can use this code. It will give you $30 off the 6-month subscription. Use this code. Let me actually just grab the actual code for you. Let's do this. $30 off 6-month 2019 license. Use that. There you go. So, crap. Forgot where I saved that. So I'm going to go back to texture export. I'm just going to grab the location, copy that. Oh yeah, Ward. Grab that. Okay, so I have two. So I saved it out as working. So just grab both of these guys. Okay, so here's working. I'm just going to grab that, pull that over. So we can actually look in here quick at the before and after. Yeah, that should make some nice. There's like some errors happening in there, so I may want to go back and fix those. But we'll see how it turns out here. All right, so now when I save this dude, let's turn on the headlight here. Alright, so now when I save this guy, let's do this. Doot, doot. Alright, ready? Save. And then now we do this. Didn't update. Let's just make sure that it's grabbing the right one. There we go. So that is after, and then if I save this, turn the after off, and then do this, there, that's before. So you're starting to see where we can push some of this stuff, and then that's after. We still got a long way to go. Another thing to mention is when you're doing normal map adjustments, you'll still need to go back and change your albedo and your roughness maps. So what we could do is just turn the albedo off and the roughness off. Let's see what that starts looking like. Alright, maybe we'll turn the sky brightness down a little. We'll also see that some of the subsurface scattering really starts softening up a lot of that, so you can use the scatter depth to kind of really see what's going on. So yeah, see, we're still getting some of these little errors in here. We'll have to make sure that we go back and fix some of that stuff. So a lot of the stuff is very subtle work. Very, very subtle work. So you see, we still got a long way to go. Right now it's starting to look a little too spider-like. And I think that's because when we're baking, some of this geo is actually overlapping, so it's kind of throwing some errors. Let's turn on our headlight again. This is tool bag. Marmoset tool bag. So it's ultimately what this is dumped into, right? It's not about what the high-res sculpt looks like. It's about what your final in-game mesh looks like. So this will always slave to what your final output is going to be. In this case, I'm using the Marmoset renderer. Yep, yeah, no problem. Oh, Codus says, character artists get their characters into toolbag keyshot as quick as possible, such as just after the blockout or body retopo. Everybody kind of works a little bit differently, so some may, and then some may not. A lot of the times, the reason why you want to get them in quick is to just see the overall shape and form and like how things are kind of flowing. You can do that pretty quickly in here. Cool. Some of the cool stuff is you can just go to like outline, so you can, and then you can just do flat shade, and you start seeing just what your base shapes are looking like, and see if your silhouette is interesting or not. There's all kinds of stuff you can do right here in ZBrush. For 3D character artists that are doing production work, I don't really see that too much. But if you have a 3D concept artist, then yeah, they a lot of times they'll take it into something else so they can get some renders going. So let's see. What's happening is some of this this geo is slightly overlapping, so I may want to come in and just on lower subdivision levels just kind of smooth a little bit of this out, so it's not just going so crazy and overlapping. Yeah, no problem, Codus. But you know, again, everybody's a little bit different, so if that helps you, do it, man. Do it. Or, you know, who knows? If you're stuck on something and you feel like you can't get to the next phase of a particular project, try doing that. Try doing something different. Break the mold that you normally do, and a lot of times that will help you move forward. You know, seeing things in different lights, and yeah, he does need some anti-aging cream. Maybe we just need to kind of pull some of this back a little bit. And don't be afraid to go back and have to rework some areas. It's totally fine. You know, maybe that's you don't know what some of the problems are until you bake out a normal map. And you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't really realize that. Okay, so I need to go back and kind of rework that area. Work in layers, and don't be afraid to go back and, redo some areas. More often than not, if you go back and redo it, it's better the second time, because you've already learned the lessons from the first time you did it. Am I ever worried that 3D scanning will replace modeling as a job? No, not at all. Honestly, I'm not worried about that at all. Because, as Tom can attest to, it's really you still have to have somebody process and make artistic decisions with those pieces. What I see scanning doing in the current pipeline is helping, getting us to things much faster, so that we can focus on bigger and better things, you know? So I think we're starting to get a little bit muddled here. So what I'm going to try to do is just come in and use my brush to really define some of these smaller secondary forms. So yeah, no, I don't see 3D scanning replacing character modelers, because a character modeler is way more than just creating a piece or an asset. A character modeler handles so much more than that. Environment modelers? No. I mean, still, there's so much magic that goes into the game and making sure it works in the engine, and you're doing edits, and everything doesn't exist in real life. Like, let's say you're making Call of Duty. Can you go back and create the destroyed buildings from World War II? No. I mean, are you going to go back and scan what's there now? No. You'll always need some kind of artistic input. You can go back and do, there's this dilapidated building in, Georgia that kind of looks like that. Okay, well, who's going to go back and put that into place and make sure that it melds well with all the other assets that are in there? Somebody's got to do that. 3D scanner's not going to do that. There's no way that it'll replace actual production artists. And if you do it correctly, the best way to think about technology improvements, and whether you're going to be paranoid on if it's going to replace you or not, is to think about it as not, oh, this is going to replace me. It's, oh, this is going to save me so much time that I can now do this, right? Because it's all about how much time that you have. So if you spend most of your time creating the asset, you don't have a whole lot of time to come up with variations of it. But if you had a process where you use a scanner to come up with the base, then now you have time to do stuff on top of that, right? So we're starting to get a little bit of folding over action happening here, so I want to make sure that that's not happening. So I'm just going to smooth all this out. Just going to destroy this a little bit here and rebuild it. When I was learning ZBrush early on, did I ever have a trouble with making faces look too generic? I still have that issue. I think a lot of people still have that issue. I think the biggest thing you can worry about is developing your eye. Develop your how you see things, and if you're able to see things, and what is there, what isn't there. That's the most important thing. And then get feedback. A lot of times, you'll do a bunch of work, and then you just won't get good critical feedback on it from other artists that have developed their eye in the same fashion that you're trying to develop your eye for good form and good presentation and good design. So really, really important is to be able to get good critical feedback. Because a lot of times you stare at something for long enough that you kind of don't see that stuff anymore. Um, and other good artists will be able to tell you, oh, hey, dude, you got to do this. Oh, crap, I don't even see that. Happens all the time. Okay. So I feel like these are kind of dying right here. So I want to make sure that I'm getting them into these. So I want to separate this guy. Yeah, yeah. It's better 3D artist for games or artist for production advertising. It's up to you, man. That's a very um, it's really impossible to answer. Um, depends on if you do you like marketing more or do you like creating characters more. It's up to you. Looks like my next project bike is being delivered later. Is that because you're getting back into ZBrush now? Let's see. I want to plan to have one of these actually come over into the crow's feet. So right now it's just a little bit kind of muddled in this area. So I just want to see which one. I think maybe. So this one crossing down to here is a possibility. Asgard, what's up, buddy? So let's just try that. So maybe go grab my inflate. Maybe we'll just connect those. We'll see how that feels. And then this one kind of terminates into it. That might be kind of cool. There you go. And then maybe this one will come. Do you have any 2D experience and how much does it cross over into 3D? Oh, delivered later? Okay. How much 2D transfers to 3D? It really depends. Honestly, I think the most important skill that is transferred between specialties is design and form knowledge. Form knowledge kind of gets muddled in with design, but if you have good design sense, that's the biggest thing. So what you're practicing when you're drawing is design. You know, how does one form interact with others? How is your balance? How is your composition? What is the are you using patterns? Are you using the rule of thirds? Are you using big, small, and medium shapes? All those things are probably the most important thing to develop, whether you're in 2D or 3D. Design, man. Design. That's the key. Design. Does something feel good? Does it hit all the bells and whistles of what a good design or good composition does? And then you can transfer that into 2D or 3D. A lot of times people say, oh, you need to learn how to draw. The big thing is you need to learn how to design well. And the quickest way to come up with designs and practice design is drawing. Like, how just figuring out relationships of shapes and forms and patterns and that kind of stuff. Like, how quickly can you study that in 3D? It could take a little bit longer, right? So if you're not able to sculpt, learn how to draw. Learn how to express good design on paper when you're not able to do it in 3D. That's when I tell people learn how to draw. Rant. Nimlot, dude, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? You always stream when I can't watch. I'm on mobile in traffic. Careful driving, dude. Careful driving. It's good to have you, man. Hey guys, if you guys aren't familiar with Nimlot, he does some really awesome character work for video game pipelines. So if you get a chance, definitely check him out. He streams all the time, and he streams really dope stuff. So check out Nimlot. Nimlot 26. All right. So now that we have some of more of this flow kind of coming over, let's bake one more time to see what that looks like. But first we save. And then after that, we're going to get into, some of the textures on the chin and the neck. What's up, you sharp? Alright, I think we got saved. Okay, cool. Alright, now what we're going to do is go to normal map, create my normal map. Duh, we got to have that at subdivision level 1. Create my normal map. You can also just play around with some of these settings and see what works for you. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, man. Always shout out to awesome artists here. So clone that over to my texture palette, grab the new one, flip the vertical, and then export. I'm gonna put that to working, save that out, jump over here, open up working, grab that, bring it in. So this is the so this was the fixed one, this was before. So see how some of those errors are getting fixed now? I didn't really do much to this side, but we'll take a look at this area in particular. And this is, how the flow goes. When you're starting to get to this point, you really just got to start testing stuff. Right? That just looks like crap. Let me turn my scatter depth back up a little bit. Okay. Alright, so now we'll save this, and then we'll jump over here. Now watch here. There we go. So now you're starting to kind of work out some of those details in there. It's still got a long way to go. But as we kind of come in here, we're starting to see some of those secondary details happen, as we move our light around. Well, my lights are stationary. It's important to check from multiple distances as well, and angles. We still got a ways to go. But this is pretty much the process, you know. Once you get the head going, you get the pour pass rolling, then you start kind of doing this kind of back and forth of getting things out to the actual engine. Okay. Dude, that's crazy, Tom. That's a whole that's a whole project, dude. That's freaking awesome, though. For those of you in YouTube or Facebook, uh, Tom's talking about how he's going to use ZBrush to model actual motorcycle parts with ZBrush and Fusion 360, and then use them to in a CNC machine. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. All right, so let's start kind of see if we can get some of this area going here. Let's create a new layer. So what we want to do first is kind of fix this up a little bit. That's a little funky monkey. All right, this whole line that comes through here. And there's really no like, oh, this is exactly how you do that stuff. It's kind of, you just kind of have to figure it out. And because you're working on layers, you're able to kind of work non-destructively, which is nice. I think what I may do, maybe not smoothing, but maybe I'll take my damn standard and actually come in and maybe just push some of this stuff in. See if I can get rid of some of those shapes and try to blend it back in. Maybe that'll work. Maybe I can add some more shapes around it to kind of help break up this movement of the line that was there. So maybe I'll kind of expand some of these. From mellow adventure bike to hardcore old school scrambler. Oh, dude. Are you going to be documenting this and like sharing on the social medias? Because it would be awesome to see the progress and like how you use ZBrush and to create the pieces and like the 3D printing and all that stuff. Man, it would be awesome to see. So just that little stuff, just getting rid of some of these consistent shapes that make that line, just using a damn standard, and that may fix that. Yeah, dude, I would honestly, Tom, dude, I would love to see that. Love to see that. I think a lot of other people would be too. I mean, it doesn't have to be some huge, production either. Just a couple things here and there. Maybe some raw video. It's like, hey, what's up? This is Tom. What's up, dude? This is Tom. I'm making stuff down here in New Zealand. I'm a stuff maker. Just like that. You got to do it in that like super California accent. Yeah, right. Do people use Facebook groups art challenges to gain valuable feedback? Yes, absolutely, Crotus. Absolutely. 100%. I think one of the biggest things that you can do is be active in social media as an up and coming artist, or just as any artist. It's really a great platform to connect with other artists throughout the world and foster relationships. And there you go. Look at that. Pretty much gone. Still got a little bit here happening. So what I'm going to do is, all right, what's making that line? I think it's a difference in the detail that's happening here versus the detail that's happening here versus the detail that's happening here. So maybe if I just started adding maybe some surface variation around it, it may. What's up? It's me. Yeah, this will end up being a VOD on ZBrushLive.com under my artist page, so you'll be able to find it there. You will also be able to find it on the Pixelogic YouTube channel. Will be up there eventually. Probably give it a couple of days to get up, maybe Monday or something. So sometimes it's just about putting detail above and below a line like that. Will help kind of unify all three of those areas to help kind of blend things out. I'm just using damn standard and just kind of adding noise by hand through here. Yeah. Dream says, it'd be really difficult to get useful feedback from Facebook and groups sometimes, though. This is very true. So what I do and what I would suggest to people is that try to make some connections with other artists, and in those connections build your own kind of little family of contacts that you can give and get feedback from. So I would say try not to depend on the general public to give you good feedback. It can be a little tough to find what you need. So what I would do is I would work on fostering relationships with other artists that may be the same style as you, same genre or whatever, and start trying to get feedback from them. So using a focus group sometimes will give you much better details or much better return. What's up, Enigma? Which brush is this? Yes, absolutely. Right now I'm just using damn standard, but there's a lot of different things going on. Let's try to fix this guy here real quick. So let's go down in subdivision levels to see where the earliest part of this is happening. So we can see a difference in this shape and this shape here. So maybe I want to just come in with my my clay buildup and start kind of blending those shapes together. Maybe I want to pull this one back and pull this one out a little bit, just to start kind of evening out those secondary shapes. Maybe I'll just do a quick smooth over it. See if it's happening. I see it happening on this side too. So maybe we'll knock that down, build this up, smooth that out a little bit. CG feedback is a fairly good place to get some good feedback. It's really run by some guys from Weta. Oh, interesting. Okay, CG feedback. Check that one out. The important thing to know though is the general rule of thumb for feedback is be able to take good critical feedback without getting offended, and offer your feedback too if it's applicable. Don't just take from the community, give back to that community. You'll tend to get more people being generous when you give back. So don't just take from the pool, give back to the pool. Yeah. Yeah, as a maybe as a more junior artist, you don't want to necessarily give a lot of feedback, and that's totally fine. That's completely um, completely valid. What I would do then is listen to people's feedback and think for yourself, like, is that do I think that that feedback is valid? And then listen to the responses. A lot of times, listening to other people's feedback really, really helps with your own work. Um, there's sometimes when you go through classes or something where kind of everybody gets critiqued. Uh, you know, while you're waiting for your turn, listen to the other um, listen to the other feedbacks. Right, look at their work in the beginning before the feedback happens and see if you can predict what the feedback's going to be, right? Because that's you training your eye to see things, right? And then if you're just kind of thinking to yourself, "Oh, I think this little thing is off," and then wait for the teacher, see if he or she says, "Yeah, this thing is off." You're like, "Oh, I noticed that. Cool. I'll start working on that. I'll keep an eye on that for my own projects, right? If I ever come across that issue in my own stuff." So even though it may not be feedback on your own stuff, you can still really get a lot out of listening to other people's feedback. Spectre, how you doing, buddy? Has your character got a mouth bag yet, or is that much later thing for you? This guy does have a mouth bag. In this particular character, I'm not gonna go in and do all the teeth and all of that stuff. Um, if I'm doing it for production for work, of course I'd go and do all that. But I'm ready to move on from this project, so I just kind of wanna spend another amount of time doing that stuff. You know what I mean? Okay. So let's see if kind of got sidetracked with fixing some of the lips, but let's see if this fixed that fairly well. So here's before, and here's after. Pretty good. And all these fixes, for fixing seams like that, it's really everything's a little bit different. Every problem's a little bit different, so you got to be you have to be creative in your decisions. Assess and execute. What is a mouth bag? Mouth bag is the geo inside the mouth. So like when you go in and like open the mouth, you actually see the geo inside. I'll save real quick. Yes, good accurate feedback and critique produces good art. Yes. So if I just hide some of this is the mouth bag in here. It's the roof of the mouth, the bottom of the mouth, the tongue, and place for the teeth. And sometimes it can go down into the throat. Alright, so let's see if we can start adding some of this detail in here. Let's turn off mouth open. Let's go back down to this guy. Turn off colorize. Alright, so we assess what's around it. Alright, so it basically just kind of looks like noise at this point. Alright, we have some of these lines going to come down here. I wonder if there's any game character with cavity sculpted in their teeth. Probably not game characters, but maybe some VFX that may have it for like an internal shot of the mouth. They'll definitely have stuff like that. So what I want to do first is I want to kind of plan some of these, come down through here. Nah, let's do noise first. So I think the first thing I want to do is clean up some of this little area. We can get rid of that line first so we don't have to fix it later. So let's go down to, say, maybe 5. And we'll just kind of smooth some of this out. Or as Canadian would say, smooth it out. If there's any other lines over here. Not really. Going back to 5. Go back to 6. And just smooth this out. I'm not worried about... that's fine. I'm not really worried about killing any of the information up here because we're going to end up making it down here. So I'll use some overlap to kind of make the transition a little bit easier. So I'm not worried about kind of getting rid of a little bit of what's happening there. Just want to work on blending. So my initial thought is, maybe I'll just use some displace and see if I can get some of this noise to kind of move onto here. So let's look for displace. We'll look at stroke. Instead of using this alpha, maybe I'll use something like this. I think that was going to be it, maybe. Maybe we'll turn the intensity down a little and turn my size down. See if... yeah, that may work for a base layer. So that's add, and then maybe we'll subtract as well. That could probably work. Then it's important to kind of not just work from that border. It's important to kind of blend into the already existing stuff. Now the other thing you could do is you can get really creative and say, well, okay, I kind of like this. Because you're doing add and subtract, so it's kind of pushing and pulling. What you could do is just go in and make an alpha from that with mRGB grabber, and then use that with a drag rec, and then just do that. Could. Or you could just kind of do it by hand like this. So again, I'm just going between adding and subtracting by just toggling Alt. Yeah, I think that's working. The displace brush is really awesome for this. This way may take some time to kind of fill all this in, so maybe think about another way that you could do it faster. For me, I don't really care too much, so I'm just gonna I'm not gonna do the whole neck right now, so I'm just gonna do this area. Typos come from fat thumbs, man. Just chop half your thumb off and then you won't get so many typos. Just kidding, don't do that. Don't do that. And then just make sure that you know what the pores are doing in different areas of the skin. Really important. I think I'll just work on this little piece right here, and then we'll start going in with a second pass over this. Do get some weirdness happening here, so maybe I'll just smooth all that out. At this point, I'm recreating all the rest of it, so I may as well work on that as well and try to get that out. Dude, new keyboard's like $10, bro. It's time for a new one. Your poor keyboard, too. Let that thing out to pasture, man. Give it a rest. Let it retire. So now we're getting some nice kind of surface variation through here. It still has some plastic on the surface. Okay. I think that's good for now. You kind of get the idea. So base layer would just get some basic noise happening. Yeah, watch out for that sticky Windows key. It'll get you. So maybe I'll just turn up the intensity a little bit, and then see what that gives me. Okay, starting to get a little bit more. That's already fairly good. I think just those two levels will be good enough. And then we'll start adding some kind of more like height variation. So basically all I did was just changed my intensity a little. A lot of tricks to getting kind of this fine detail work is just working in passes. You know, do your first pass, see how that looks, test another patch, do another more high frequency pass on that, and then just kind of layer it up. That's where a lot of the tricks come in, how to make things look good and complicated and interesting. It's just layering up. Layers like ogres. Thanks, Raj. What's up, Benham? Why, when the $10 can get you a new spool of wire for building the clutch or throttle cables? That's true. It's true. It's a toss-up, though. It depends on whether you want to deal with typos or not. You know? It's always a toss-up. I'm just going to kind of blend into the already established areas just to kind of get away from a large visible difference kind of from far away. So we're not really seeing that yet, which is good. When I'm just doing like a blend like this, I'll just try to do it all in one layer. I already have tons of layers, so I'm gonna try not to add too many more layers that I don't have to. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I think the base noise is fairly the same, but we're kind of missing some of this even more high frequency breakup. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to change to maybe this alpha 40. See what that looks like. It's getting there. We're starting to see a little bit more some of these darker values and lighter values, where these shadow values in here are all kind of mid-tone. So maybe what we'll do is we'll turn the intensity down. Maybe the intensity up just a little bit more. It's subtle, but it's starting to add places that have, see, if you're looking at their grayscale values, like some of these have really dark values and really light values, and some of these areas over here have just kind of like these mid-tone values. But in here you see more like the highlight areas. So see, that's why this patch looks a little bit different from this versus this versus this. Is he a blacksmith? Kind of. He is. For anybody that's relatively new, this is the guy that I'm working on here. Whoa, my camera's way off. What? Why? That was weird. So this is the guy that I'm working on. He's Horizon Zero Dawn Oseram clan. And this is the concept that I'm working from. Adrian Wilkins is the concept artist. You're not the one that has to deal with the typos. If you'd a pile of garbage and wanted to make it a wee bit easier for you. Well, you're so considerate, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, I've been working on this guy for a very, very long time. But I only work on him like on stream, so yeah, I've been working on this guy for a while. Yes, I know. Leave me alone. But I only work on stream, so you know, I get maybe an hour and a half to work on him twice a month. You do the math. So maybe we'll start adding even a little more breakup. Maybe we can pull that in. Alright, so maybe we'll throw some high intensity stuff in here. Let's see if we can really start punching that up. And again, I'm using add and subtract. At this point, I may want to try to put this on a different layer. Maybe a good idea. Alright, I think that's a good base, and I think we can start coming in with some of these kind of wrinkle details through here. I think now's a good time, and then we'll add another layer after that. Hey Carlos, if you put it in English, I should be able to answer your question. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is go back to my dam standard and throw this down to like a 1, and then throw this pretty high intensity. So now I can start coming in and adding some of this stuff. And what I really want to do is I do want this all on a new layer. So I can start coming in and adding some of this directional. It'd be a good idea if you haven't done this part a couple of times. I definitely look at reference, see how those go. Yeah, it's a lifetime project, that's for sure. I did finally get them all baked though. That was pretty awesome. One of the ones that we really want to show some wear through here. Just gonna just small X's. I'm gonna do that, but small, like this. Just kind of. I'm gonna go this way, and then I'm gonna kind of just cross that. This kind of gives that really nice kind of back and forth long-term skin condensing look. And then maybe I'll do a couple deep ones through here. I've done skin quite a lot, so I kind of am banking on some of my previous knowledge. Otherwise, I would definitely be looking at reference right now. Um, yeah, a lot of the skin stuff is by hand currently. But everybody's skin is a little bit different, and it's different for age of the character. It's different for a lot of different reasons. So when you have a cinematic character, um, you get a lot of payoff for paying really close attention to some of these details. So it's really worth it to make sure that the piece looks really good. And everybody's a little bit different. Every face is a little different, so most of the time you're going to have to come in and touch them. On this guy, I use texturing XYZ maps to just get the base going. But yeah, you'll definitely need to come in and do some stuff. There is a simple way, a magic hidden button, but it's hidden. It's a very good point. Then maybe I'll change up my draw size just a little bit and start adding a little bit more variation to that. And I got to be careful. Sometimes if I do this too quickly, you get some of that kind of stuttering happening. I want to make sure that doesn't happen, right? I really don't want that stutter because that like once you have some of those lines that stutter, it really quickly goes from realistic to issues, not looking very good. The nice thing is that you can take what's already here and kind of mimic how that's happening, right? that blend is happening fairly nicely. So usually when I come up with a process for like a blend or how I'm creating something, I want to make sure that that process doesn't have a bunch of complicated steps, because now I don't want to have to go back and figure out what those steps were again for all of this stuff down here. Right? I want to just keep it to a couple of steps so that I can recreate it really easily. Yeah, there are easier options, but this way is a lot less generic looking because it's custom to this particular head. What do you think, Tom? Am I doing myself justice yet? Am I doing as character artist, as professional character artist justice with this guy yet? Yeah. So I probably want to start looking at some reference now. So I can extend this where it needs to go over the border that I'm trying to do, but I kind of don't want to make up what this is down here. I really want to look at some areas. Yeah, looks pretty good. So I think one last thing that I'll do to this is to add kind of your beard pores. It's kind of really what's missing. I'm just going to show you what I would do for that as kind of a final pass. Is I would use my displace spray, and then I probably just use this alpha 40 again. Alpha 40 is really good. So I'll turn this up quite a bit, turn my intensity quite a bit down. Maybe not that far. Right, so I want to have these protruding pieces. Right, you start seeing the hair follicles. Might be a little bit much. We will try a little bit larger brush. Maybe a little bit more intensity. There we go. And just kind of start sprinkling in some of this nice pore variation. And I probably will put this on a different layer, but just kind of showing you for now. I'm just kind of, I'm not really like going like this, because it's just a little bit much. I'm just kind of lightly tapping in here. A little much better. So you got this nice variation happening. And then probably what I would do for a final pass on this is I would do maybe a larger alpha and maybe a larger brush with really low intensity, and just maybe a little bit more intensity here. Not that big. So I want to add, just see that how that little surface variation is happening. I kind of want to just go and add a little bit of that in here. See how like you get this nice kind of subtle shapes happening in there? Like the overall surface is not the same. Maybe I can turn my intensity up just a little bit. So like in some of these like areas, I can start just pushing and pulling a little bit, just to kind of start getting some of that slight surface variation happening. I think that even is a little bit much. We'll put that on a different layer. Then maybe we'll just go through and kind of just add some of this. Maybe we'll just kind of go overhanded for this. Then you can morph some of that out, and then you can pull that back on the layer amount just to add some subtlety. See that nice subtle actions happening? Alright, I think that's it for today, boys and girls. It's family time. If you want to see some English engineers building some mad stuff for the road, look for Bad Obsession Motorsport channel on YouTube. Ooh. Bad Obsession Motorsport. I'll take a look at that. I'm always on the lookout for good, constructive YouTube stuff. Project Binky. Oh, nice, dude. Yeah. Cool. I'll take a look at those. Alright, ladies and gents. That one was good. We got some nice blending stuff happening. We fixed up some of the eyes. Usually in production, you're probably going to spend at least a couple of days, you know, working on stuff like this. So, so far we've got, I don't know, 6 hours or so. And we'll continue doing that. Also, if you guys are interested in picking up ZBrush, 2019 is out. If you want to, I've got a code for you guys if you'd like. $30 off the 6-month code. You can use that code right there. And yeah, it's been fun. It's awesome. Thank you for everybody that was hanging out. I had some good chats and catching up with my buddy Tom. What up, Tom? Yeah, and stay tuned for more awesome artists on the ZBrush channel here. So follow the Pixelogic channel if you'd like to follow my channel. I'm working on some ZBrush. Not ZBrush, some Substance Painter for this guy. So I'm working on his whole body. And yeah, I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned a couple things. But most of all, I hope you were inspired to make your own cool shit. So do it. Go make the cool stuff. And then post it. Or it doesn't matter. Alright, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Later.